Hello and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now I'm going to give you a broad overview of what to expect before diving deep and exploring each of the 12 zodiac signs in forensic detail. So please stay with me for that analysis. Now the big takeout of this month is that we have 2 new moons, and when this happens, the second is known as the Black Moon. The first new moon is on the 1st in the go-getting sign of Aries, but it combines with Mercury, the planet of ideas, the planet of communication. Aries energy is about initiation and fresh starts. Let's hope some fresh energy is coming through in a constructive way for us all. The second new moon is in Taurus, the next sign on from Aries, because the Sun moves on into Taurus on the 20th. Now this one is in a sextile with the ruler of Aries, Mars. But Mars moves into the sign of Pisces on the 15th. Now Mars moving through Pisces can be a very meditative, or our actions can be very much behind the scenes. Sometimes people who are involved in enterprises such as mining or deep sea diving have Mars in Pisces in their natal chart. So we can expect some things going on behind the scenes that could be positive. And Mars is also in a conjunction with Saturn in the first 9 days. Now Mars in Capricorn, as it was, especially in its conjunction with Pluto, which became exact on the 3rd of March, is a very, very challenging influence. And we know that there has been an outbreak of violence in the very heart of Europe, which is deeply troubling. But once Mars moved on the 6th of March into the sign of Aquarius, and now at the start of this month is combining with the co-ruler of Aquarius, Saturn, there's a much greater desire, I think, collectively to try to get things working in a way which may not be perfect, but is certainly better than that real fight for power that has been imposed at, the latter end of February and the early parts of March. And one of the very uplifting parts of this month's energies is that Neptune and Jupiter, the 2 co-regents of Pisces, are in a conjunction within 3 degrees through the whole month. And on the 12th, that becomes absolutely exact. I think that that can be a very healing dimension. I really pray so. Also, Venus moves into Aries on the 5th. Now, Venus in Aries is, to be honest, in detriment. But I actually have always liked Venus in Aries because I think it gives us an impulse to try to relate. To take the first move, not to sit back and wait. So for me, that can be very positive. But on the 11th, Mercury does move from Aries into the sign of Taurus. Now it is going to be clashing with Pluto from the 9th through to the 12th. And that clash of Plutonian energy still in the sign of Capricorn through to 23, part-time goes into Aquarius, then moves into Aquarius in 24, and we really get the start of the Aquarius age, I feel. But we also have the Sun mirroring the right angle with Pluto at the heart of this month, and then that brings in the full moon on the 16th in the sign of Libra. So we have a T-square going between Pluto, the Sun and the moon. And I think that's going to be an interesting point of how there's a pushback against power being used in the wrong way. And the combination of Neptune and Jupiter, which after all, Jupiter is about hope, Neptune can be about healing, but in their home signs, I'm really hoping that there will be a fundamental pushback at the heart of this month, which does see an improvement in Central Europe. Now on the 20th, we do see the Sun, as I mentioned before, moving into Taurus, and then on the 29th, Pluto slams on the brakes. So obviously Uranus was still in retrograde at the start of this year, but this is the first of the big beasts going into their annual retrogrades, and it's going to go on until the 7th of October. This is going to be really interesting, I feel, because the sign of Capricorn is about old power. The sign of Aquarius is much more about taking the best of that old power, but being enlightened about new techniques, being more inclusive. So Pluto going into a retrograde will be interesting for certain political strands in the world. You know, people who've held power in a much more authoritarian way could retreat, or perhaps just reset their purposes. But on the 29th, Mercury does move into its home zone of Gemini, and that can be a really brilliant point for much more communication starting to ping around. Also, the 30th, that wonderful Taurus new moon is in a very positive angle with Mars, suggesting that if we actually take the best of what we already know, or what's been evolving over a very long period of time, which is Mars coming through in its journey. Obviously, it moves at the heart of this month into the sign of Pisces. So by the end of May, it's going to be readying to go into Gemini, where it's going to be for the rest of the year, because it goes through, and into the first months of next year, because it goes through a retrograde. But I think that what we're going to see as this month comes to a close is much more constructive, workable ways of approaching some of the transitions that may have gone on this month. Now, if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for listening so far. Please, I'd be delighted if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you'd like to get your free written daily horoscope fired to your device each morning, please subscribe on the link below. It'd be great to have you with me. And also, if you'd like to get your 12-month forecast and character analysis based on your time, date and place of birth, and ascend above your zodiac sign, and really get much greater understanding of what makes you tick and your potentials in the time ahead, there is 30% off with my special offer. Please see the link for that below too. Hello Leo, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April. Now, you're likely to feel pretty restless as this month begins, but in a really positive way. Your desire to open up your world, to be more experimental, adventurous, and that could be moving your thinking as much as moving your body in terms of any physical or rugged pursuits, because stimulation and spontaneity will really appeal to you as this month begins, because the new moon on the 1st combines with Mercury, the planet of thinking. So any kind of research, connections to overseas, travel plans will really be appealing to you. But because Saturn is joined by Mars in a tight conjunction for the first 9 days, there may be something that you need to discuss or work with in a collaborative way with someone that you're closely involved with. Now, Mars conjoining Saturn is a tricky influence, but it is one with assets. If we try to do too much with that particular influence, we can become a little unstuck. But if you narrow your focus onto the relationships and interactions that are really important to you, then you will make progress. But if you're trying to be too much of a people pleaser, then that's something that perhaps Saturn is pushing in its conjunction with Mars for you to be a bit more assertive about your personal boundaries. Now, there is obviously a lot of energy this month in the sign of Pisces, which for you is house 8, very much to do with legacies, inheritances, insurance policies, pensions, investments, and of course it could also be about property. And Jupiter and Neptune, the two rulers of the sign of Pisces, come together in an exact conjunction on the 12th of this month. Now, that could lead to some kind of material improvement in your situation, particularly because Venus moves into this area on the 5th. Now, that could mean that someone you're closely involved with, their actions and activities can have a beneficial impact on you. And therefore, Venus in the 8th house can be financially important, and it can be fortuitous. But also, Venus moving into this area is asking you to dive deep in terms of understanding the value where you want to be devoted or not. So you could find yourself becoming much closer to someone with Venus moving into the situation, or thinking very carefully about the more psychological aspects of an existing relationship. Now, on the 11th, Mercury moves out of the sign of Aries and into your 10th house, where you already have the North Node and you have Uranus. And Mercury is going to be going alongside Uranus from the 16th to the 22nd. So if you are looking to be more daring or make a change around your professional situation, that can give you a sense of excitement. And Mercury moving into the 10th house often coincides with an opportunity to do professional development or training, or if you're someone with knowledge and skills that you want to invest in others, perhaps your professional activities can see you imparting your knowledge at that time. Now, on the 15th, Mars powers into the sign of Pisces too. So you can see that the 8th house of your situation is really strongly activated. And the 8th house can be about transitions. Mars moving into this area is more desire-based, and the 8th house can be about sex, but it can also be a desire for improving our financial situation. But if you're an entrepreneurial Leo, the middle of this month will give you almost like extra drive and momentum to move towards any goals and ambitions you have. Now, the Sun is going to be squaring Pluto in quite a complex way at the heart of this month, and we also have a full moon on the 16th in the sign of Libra. Now, Libra for you is the 3rd house of everyday interactions. It can be about anything to do with communications, digital and technical devices. Can also be in a more prosaic way about our neighbours, our siblings, our mode of transport. Whereas the 9th house, where the Sun is about the higher side of information. So it can be where we're understanding the more philosophical side of life. It can be about stuff to do with court cases, anything to do with interactions that are more international. So Libra, full moon opposite the Sun in your 9th house, maybe something about your thinking needs to go through a little bit of a rejig or a change, or someone will be pushing you to look at something in a different way. But this particular full moon is pivoted by Pluto in your 6th house of everyday realities. So if your thinking changes, or your actions change, or your location changes, or your mode of transport changes, or where you're located changes, it's all going to really depend on how you can make this work for you in that practical everyday sense. The 20th, however, sees the Sun power its way into the sign of Taurus, and that desire for greater acclaim, recognition, or to become more goal orientated is definitely emphasized. The 29th, however, sees Pluto go into a retrograde. If you feel that any part of your world is too much based on providing service and support to others, and this is actually having an impact on your energy and your own personal vitality, that's something you're going to want to think about over the next 4 or 5 months. But the 29th sees Mercury arrive in the sign of Gemini, which of course it rules. And this is your sector of friendship and interactions. So that's very bubbly. But then on the last day of this month, we have the black moon and the second new moon of the month. But this one in Taurus forges a link with Mars in that 8th house. So I think this is really good if you want to move into the new month, you want to move into May, very much focused on your ambitions. And you could find yourself with this desire to make a change at the start of the month. How this manifests by the end of the month is going to be quite intriguing. It could play out in a more personal or relationship context, but I think wanting to receive greater rewards for the talents you have is almost certain to be one of the sounding points as this month comes to a close. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye for now.